I've been a school teacher for 38 years. I know what it looks like when someone's lying to you. The small pauses, the eyes that move a little too fast. I'd seen it in children. I never expected to see it in my own son.
The night I heard them talking, I didn't move. I barely breathed, because what I heard through that door wasn't just a conversation. It was a plan about me, a plan to take everything I'd ever worked for, and they had no idea I was awake.
What happened next would change my life and nearly destroy it. But I want you to understand how it started, because maybe you know someone it's happening to right now. Who was Linda Pruitt, really? Why was my son suddenly so attentive after years of silence? And what was in that document they needed me to sign so urgently? These are the questions I couldn't stop asking. And they're the questions that saved me.
I taught 5th grade at Roosevelt Elementary for 38 years. I buried my husband Raymond 7 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. It was fast. He was gone before either of us could make sense of it. After Raymond passed, I decided to stay in our home. People asked me why I didn't sell, move somewhere smaller, somewhere easier. I told them this house isn't a building. It's 44 years of my life. My children grew up here. Raymond died in the back bedroom facing the garden he planted. I'm not leaving it. My son Marcus and I, we're complicated. He left Columbus for Atlanta 12 years ago, built himself a life, a nice one, from what I could see on Facebook. But calls were rare, visits rarer. I told myself I understood. People get busy, life moves fast. But the truth is, something shifted between us after Raymond died, something I couldn't name. So when he called me in March and said he was worried about me, that he wanted to come home and help, I cried. I actually cried. I thought, finally, my boy is coming back. Linda Pruitt came recommended. Marcus found her. She charged less than the agency alternatives. She was warm, organized. She brought me soup the first week and stayed to watch Wheel of Fortune. I trusted her almost immediately. That was my first mistake. Looking back now, I can see the signs I missed. The way she cataloged my house when she thought I wasn't watching. The questions about my finances she framed as just trying to help. The way she and Marcus would step outside to talk. I thought they were bonding over concern for me. I was wrong. It started with a fall, not a bad one. I tripped on the garden hose on a Tuesday afternoon, bruised my hip. Marcus was visiting. He saw the whole thing. He took me to the ER. Precautionary, the doctor said. Nothing broken. But Marcus, he latched onto that moment. He started making calls, talking to doctors without me present. I thought he was just being protective. Now I know. He was laying groundwork. The idea that I would stay at Linda's home while recovering was framed as temporary. A week, maybe 2. Marcus said it would give him peace of mind while he arranged for some. I remember thinking as I left, I'll be back soon. This is just a pause. I didn't know it was the beginning of someone trying to make that pause permanent. It was a Thursday, late. I'd woken up around 2 a.m. Old bladder, you know how it is. And as I came back down the hall, I heard voices in the kitchen. Marcus, Linda. I thought they were just up late. I stopped when I heard my name. Linda said, "The doctor appointment is set for the 14th. He's already agreed to submit the assessment." And Marcus, my son, he said, "Good. Once we have the competency evaluation in hand, the rest is easy. Power of attorney, the house, the accounts. She won't be able to fight it." I stood in that hallway for what felt like an hour, my hand on the wall, my heart running ahead of me. I have never in my life wanted so badly to be wrong about what I just heard. But I'm a school teacher. I know language, I know intent, and what I heard was a plan to take my life from me piece by piece, and they were going to use a doctor to do it. That night, I made a decision. I was not going to panic. I was not going to confront them. I was going to be smarter than both of them. I'd spent 38 years teaching children to think before they act. It was time to practice what I preached. I woke up the next morning, made my bed, and came to the kitchen table with a smile on my face. Marcus made eggs, Linda poured coffee. We talked about the weather, and I watched them. Really watched them. The way I used to watch a student who I knew had cheated on a test. Waiting for the tell. They didn't know I knew, and that was my greatest weapon. I started writing everything down. Dates, times, exact words. I hid the notepad inside a Bible I kept by the nightstand. Neither of them would think to look there. I am not a dramatic woman, but I knew, if they could use paper to take my life, I could use paper to save it. I also remembered something my late husband always said. Dorothy, when someone wants something from you badly enough to lie for it, find out what they need signed, because that's where the crime lives. I had a former student, Vanessa, who became a paralegal. I hadn't spoken to her in years. I found her number in an old address book I kept in my coat pocket. I called her on a Tuesday afternoon when Marcus and Linda had gone to the grocery store. I had about 40 minutes. Vanessa listened to everything, and then she said something I'll never forget. Miss Hargrove, what you're describing is elder financial exploitation, and it's a crime. We need to move fast, and we need to move carefully. Those were the 2 words I needed. We needed to move. I wasn't alone anymore. Vanessa contacted an elder law attorney, a man named Gerald Osee. Within 2 days, he'd pulled public records, and what he found stopped all of us cold. Linda Pruitt had done this before. 2 prior clients in the past 6 years, both elderly, both living alone, both with significant assets. One had died before any legal action could be taken. The other had signed over power of attorney before her daughter stepped in. Linda had never been charged, but there was a paper trail. And there was a name that appeared in both cases. A Dr. Raymond Carver, no relation to my Raymond. A physician who had submitted competency evaluations in both prior cases. The same doctor Marcus had taken me to see. Attorney Osee looked into Marcus's finances. What he found answered a question I'd been afraid to ask for years. Marcus was deeply in debt. A failed business venture. 2 personal loans in default. His marriage had ended. He needed money, a lot of it. And he needed it fast. My house alone was worth $280,000. My savings account held another $190,000. To Marcus, I wasn't his mother anymore. I was a solution. An empty Atlanta apartment, a foreclosure notice, the contrast of Marcus's warm smiles at Linda's house. I want you to understand something. When I learned this, I didn't cry. I sat in Gerald's office and I felt a quietness come over me. The grief would come later. What I felt in that moment was clarity. The kind of clarity that only comes when the last piece of a puzzle finally falls into place. The doctor's appointment was now 4 days away. If I went to that appointment, if I sat in that room with a physician who had already been paid to find me incompetent, it would be very difficult to undo whatever he wrote in that report. Gerald was very clear about that. The system, he explained, often defers to the first medical opinion on record. We couldn't let that appointment happen. Gerald filed for an emergency injunction to pause any competency proceedings. At the same time, Vanessa had connected me with an investigator at the Ohio Attorney General's office. They had a unit specifically for elder financial crimes. An agent named Patricia came to meet me at Gerald's office. She brought a recorder. I went back to Linda's house that evening. I smiled. I had dinner. I asked Marcus if he'd confirmed the doctor's appointment. He said yes, Thursday at 10. And then, very casually, I asked him, Marcus, I've been thinking about the power of attorney paperwork. If it would give you peace of mind, maybe we should discuss it before the appointment. He looked at Linda. She looked at him. And I watched them both relax, because they thought they had won. What happened next is something I will carry for the rest of my life. Marcus sat down at the kitchen table and explained to me, in detail, very clearly, with Linda nodding along, exactly what they had planned. The evaluation. The power of attorney. A plan to sell my house for my own good, and place me in a care facility where I could be properly looked after. He even told me the name of the facility. He'd already toured it. Every word of it was on tape. Marcus was arrested 6 days later. Linda Pruitt was arrested the same morning. Dr. Raymond Carver surrendered his medical license as part of a plea agreement with the state. The Attorney General's office opened a full investigation into his prior competency evaluations. I went home, to my house, to Raymond's rose bushes. I sat in the garden that evening, and I talked to my husband the way I always do when something big happens. I told him what Marcus had tried to do. I told him I was okay, and I told him I was angry, not the hot, shaking kind of angry, the deep, quiet kind, the kind that doesn't go away. Marcus is awaiting trial. We have not spoken. I don't know if we ever will. They counted on me being too old to fight back, too trusting to see it coming, too isolated to find help. They were wrong on all 3 counts. But here's what keeps me up at night. How many women like me are sitting in a room right now in someone else's house, hearing a conversation they weren't supposed to hear, and don't know what to do with it? How many don't have a Vanessa? How many don't know what elder financial exploitation even is? This is why I'm telling this story, not for sympathy, not for attention. I am telling it because silence protects predators, and I am done being quiet. If this story sounded familiar to you, or to someone you love, I want you to know help exists. Organizations like the National Elder Law Foundation and your state's Adult Protective Services are real resources. You are not alone. If you or someone you know has faced something like this, share your experience below. You may help someone watching this right now.
Hit that subscribe button. My next story involves a neighbor who tried something even more sophisticated, and the one detail she overlooked that ended everything.
If this story matters to you, that like button tells the algorithm that stories like Dorothy's deserve to be heard.